Hi friends, welcome back to Sarah's Next Chapter. My name is Sarah and this is my cosy corner of the internet where I share all my bookish related thoughts and musings with you guys. And today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on my reread of Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. So as always, grab your beverage of choice and let's get into it. Ah, so good. I'm drinking a little cinnamon bun iced oat latte today. I recently reread Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. This was part of my Hunger Games series reread in preparation for Sunrise on the Reaping, which is out a week today. I should say a week today as in when I'm filming it. I'm filming this the Tuesday before Sunrise on the Reaping comes out. Probably by the time this video goes up, we'll be only a few days away from the new book, which is... I can't even put into words how excited I am. If you've been on my channel for any length of time, you'll be able to imagine the excitement coursing through my veins right now. So yeah, I decided maybe like 6 months ago or something like that, when I heard the new book was coming out, that this would be a perfect opportunity to reread the Hunger Games series. And I actually started making a series on this channel where I compared the books to the films during my reread. So the first time I read the Hunger Games series, I was in my very early 20s. I was in college. It was a little bit of turbulent, wild time in my life. And I loved the books. I absolutely devoured them. They really got me through like a pretty tough time in my life, to be honest. I really related to them. Really related to Katniss in general at that point. Not that I was fighting a war. Okay, I just realised that was quite dramatic. But just like her internal struggles and her like indecision and just how every day sometimes can feel like a little bit of a battle. You just got to try and survive and like use your resources, and just that feeling of like how she always feels conflicted. I feel like she feels conflicted a lot throughout these books, and that's how I felt at that point in my life. Anyway, this is not a therapy session, so we'll move on. So yeah, I finished rereading Mockingjay and I want to share my thoughts on it. So I have them written down on my laptop here, so if you see me glancing this direction, that is why. If you've never read Mockingjay or seen the film, highly suggest that you go and do that. I don't want to give away spoilers, but I mean, Hunger Games have been out forever, so I don't feel bad if I'm spoiling anything at this point. But yeah, Mockingjay is the third in the Hunger Games series, and basically the main theme in this book is all about war. So at the end of Catching Fire, which is the second book, Katniss blows up the arena, the force field around the Hunger Games arena, and she is lifted into District 13, and she is really made the face of the rebellion for the districts who are trying to overthrow the capital and end President Snow's tyrannical reign. So that's really what this book is about. We're in the nitty gritty, we're in the war. So let me just get into my thoughts on it, because I have a lot. They're staring at me right now and I'm like, I have a lot of... It's like that bit in Mean Girls when she's like, I just have a lot of feelings. That's like me right now. So the first thing that really stood out to me in this book is that Effie Trinket, who by the way is my favourite character. She's the one, she's like the... I always call her like the presenter, but I guess she's not the presenter of the Hunger Games, because that would be like Caesar Flickerman, right? But she's the one that goes to the districts and picks the names out of the bucket of the children that are going to be reaped into the Hunger Games. She's the one with the famous line, Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favour. And yeah, Lionsgate, if you're ever looking to remake the Hunger Games, you can take that as my audition tape. Okay, thanks. So yeah, I absolutely love Effie. Effie is not in this book. She literally gets like one line at the end, and then that is it. And I am so dissatisfied with that. And I don't really remember that from the first time reading it. My little sister reread this just recently and she was like, Sarah, Effie's not in the third book. And I was like, yes, she is. I was like, she's in District 13. Like, remember, she's got the turban and she's complaining like she misses her wigs and all that. And my sister was like, no, she's in the film. She's in the last, because the Mockingjay was split into two films. She's in the last two films. She's not in the book. And this is where I'm going to say something that might be controversial to a lot of readers out there. This is one of the very rare instances where I think that the film might be better than the book. No, in fact, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to stand strong. I think the Mockingjay films are better than this book. Only because they make some choices, like Effie being in District 13, that I think really enhance the story. To read this book is quite grim. As I said, it's all about war. It's bleak, it's upsetting, it's dark. And I think that's a good thing. That's not a criticism. I think Suzanne Collins made the right choice in not shying away from the realities and the horrors of war. So that's not a criticism, it's just a fact that it makes the reading experience very grim. So Effie being in District 13 really gives us that bit of comic relief that we really need. Also because in this book, there is not a lot, well, there's none of the Katniss and Peeta romance, because Peeta has been hijacked, manipulated by the Capitol to believe that Katniss is evil. So we're not even getting the nice little glimmers that were threaded throughout the first two books of Katniss and Peeta's romance, that lovely like softness, tenderness between them. That was really like a little spark of hope and lightness threaded throughout the previous two books. That's not even in this book either. So I feel like we even more so need comic relief in the form of Effie, Haymitch and things like that. And I think that's one thing the film did really well in comparison to the book. Another thing that I have noted down is it's really obvious, like right from the start of this book, whose side Gale is on. He really quite clearly is on Team President Coin. She's the ruler of District 13. And it's also really obvious that Coin really doesn't like Katniss in the book. I feel like it's a little more ambiguous in the films, but in the book it's pretty much straight up obvious that Coin is not going to be messing around with Katniss once Coin comes into power. So that's just quite obvious straight off the bat. What I do like about this book is we got more of a backstory about the love triangle. Specifically about when Gale first realised that he was attracted to Katniss. By the way, I'm really sorry if the lighting's changing drastically in this video. It's really, really bright outside and my husband's guitar is there, and I think right now the light is like bouncing off the guitar onto my face. I'm hoping it's nice, but I just want to say that. Sorry if there's lighting changes. I just don't want to lock myself away in a dark room to film today because it's nice outside and it's Scotland. We need to seize these days with gratitude. Anyway, I digress. So we got a bit of background into Gale. Basically admits that, you know, he started realising he had feelings for Katniss about 6 months before she went into the first Hunger Games. That's pretty recent in my opinion. And even then he says that he realises he had feelings for her because someone else is kind of chatting her up and it bothers Gale. So there's like this little bit of jealousy, and I think that's the thing with Gale. He does come across as quite an inherently dark, angsty, angry character, bitter even. And Katniss is like that as well. And so in my opinion, it has always been obvious that Katniss was going to be with Peeta because people need a bit of yin and yang, right? You can't have two extremely dark, angry, bitter people. That's not going to be good in a relationship. Katniss needs Peeta's light. Katniss needs Peeta's warmth, gentleness, genuineness. I don't know if genuineness is a word, but it is now. Like, they need that, and it was interesting seeing a bit more backstory in the love triangle. You don't really get to hear about that in the films. But we know that Peeta's always been in love with Katniss since they were little. He's always, you know, had a fondness for her. It's interesting to hear that Gale's was fairly recent. So, yeah. I also loved in the book that Finnick is another one of my favourite characters. I love Effie. I adore Finnick. I think he's such an interesting character. And it was really interesting in this book that Finnick gives Katniss like coping mechanisms. He's really like her shoulder to cry on when she feels like, you know, she's in 13, she doesn't really have Gale because he's off making bombs with Beatty. We all know how that ends up. And she doesn't have Peeta because he's hijacked, like he's mental. So she only really has Finnick, and she really confides in him, and Finnick gives her this coping strategy that he uses, which is like a piece of rope, and he makes different nooses. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I don't know, that sounds grim, but like he basically just ties the knots, that's the word I was looking for. He makes different knots with the rope, and that helps like ground him, and it's like, I don't know, it's just a really nice moment when he gives her a bit, like his bit of rope and is like, basically like, keep your hands busy while your mind is kind of all over the place. I don't know. I just thought it was really, really beautiful. So the next thing I have written down is PETA hijacking real or not real is so sad, with like a sad face emoji. The whole section where PETA is trying to sort out his memories into what is real and what is not real, I could honestly cry about that right now. It's so sad. It's so tragic. Yeah, that is, I don't know what, I don't even have any more. It's just so tragic, and it's so well written. Like the fact that he has to be like, this thing happened, real or not real, and he has to rely on other people telling him, yep, that's real, or no, that was made up. Oh, it's just brutal. Anyway, next thing I've written down is that I wanted more from Haymitch at the end. I also feel like Haymitch wasn't as big a presence in the book as he is in the last two films, the Mockingjay films. And I love Haymitch. He's a great character. I'm so excited for Sunrise and the Reaping to get more of a look into Haymitch. But yeah, I feel like... So at the end of the Mockingjay films, I think Haymitch writes Katniss a letter. But that doesn't happen in the book. And I thought that was... I missed that. I thought it would have been nice for Katniss and Haymitch to sort of come together in some way at the end, because I feel like they really understand each other by the end of these books. They go from like really hating each other to like really understanding each other in the series. So I just kind of wanted a moment with that, and it was a shame that we didn't get that. I also felt like the plot point about it potentially being one of Gale's traps / bombs that kills Prim, and that's the reason why Katniss can't be with Gale, that fell a bit flat for me in the reread. I don't know, I thought it was a much more obvious, like, stronger reason that she had, like, I don't know, it just didn't hit the same for me. And I think this is one of the telltale signs of it being a YA, because I feel like if this was just a straight up like adult fiction book, Katniss wouldn't really have needed that reason to not be with Gale. In my opinion, it's obvious she's going to be with PETA. She constantly says that Gale feels like a brother to her. And the only time she really insinuates that she might be with Gale is when she thinks about things like, you know, if the Hunger Games had never happened, or if we weren't in such unfortunate circumstances, then maybe Gale and I would run off into the woods and be together. Maybe, but like, it's almost like it's always kind of a dream. It's always kind of a fantasy. She knows it's not going to happen. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. Whereas PETA is clearly the one that anchors her, that keeps her grounded. Obviously, they've trauma bonded so much in the games that Gale's never going to be able to compete with that. I just think we didn't need... It felt like a weak reason because it wasn't concrete. She didn't 1000% know that, you know, Gale's specific trap, specific bomb had killed Prim. Yes, you could argue it's fairly obvious and whatever, but it's not 100%. Obviously, Gale would not have meant for that to happen, right? Yes, he got very carried away in the war. Yes, he was being very brutal. Yes, he was saying things that were like out of pocket and whatever. But obviously, he would never have meant to kill Prim. And it just felt like that was used as a device to be like, okay, Katniss can't be with Gale now, so she has to be with PETA, which I don't think we needed. I just don't think it was necessary. I think she could have just decided that it was PETA, you know? I don't know. Anyway. I wish Finnick's death got more airtime, just because he's one of my favourite characters. I don't know in what way that could have been done. It just feels like he's gone and that's it very quickly. And it makes me sad because I really, really love him. So that's sad. So yeah, all in all, this is a very sad, very grim book. I would not say it was the strongest in the series at all. I think it's definitely the weakest one out of the three, like in the original series. I'm glad I reread it. I definitely got things from it that I maybe missed when I read it when I was a bit younger. That's why I enjoy doing rereads, because I feel like you always get something different from them, because you go in with a different perspective every time, you know. So I'm glad I read it. I think I gave it maybe like a 4.5 stars on Storygraph. It didn't quite hit the 5-star mark for me because of all the reasons. Oh, I missed one. I knew there was something. Oh, that's annoying. One of the things I actually did really like about this book was there was a lot more mentioned of Katniss's dad. which I feel like we don't really get in the films in general. There was all this talk about him singing and the Mockingjays stopping to listen, the hanging tree song, the mine explosion in 2 and how that was horrific for Katniss. Like, she's obviously got a lot of PTSD because that's how her father was killed in the mines, and also like her craving this like protective father figure. We can really see that's really evident in this book. So that was actually one of my strongest likes of this book, was that backstory, because we don't get that in the films. Probably just because there's not really an appropriate place to show it, which I get, but it's a shame because it was nice in the books. So yeah, anyway, to go back, I think I gave it like a 4.5 stars. Yeah, wasn't a 5-star for me like Hunger Games or Catching Fire, but I am glad I reread it, and I'm so excited for Sunrise on the Reaping, you guys. I can't. So let me know what you think of all my thoughts from this reread, and let me know if you're excited for Sunrise on the Reaping. As always, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, leave me a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!